Good morning. Good morning. Welcome and welcome back to Bookie Monsters. My name is PK. It is Thursday, May the 23rd, and we are here to look at the new releases that are being set into the wild this week. We look at them genre by genre each day of the week. So on Monday, we looked at cozy mysteries. Tuesdays, we looked at mysteries and thrillers. Yesterday, Wednesday, we looked at romance. Today, we are looking at fantasy and science fiction. And tomorrow is Friday, TGIF, Freeform Friday. And we look at the things that are kind of catching our attention otherwise, or looking at more mysteries, because cozy mysteries, because there's always a lot of cozy mysteries. Quick announcements. We do have sprints tonight at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. They'll go for 2.5 hours. I do them every Tuesday and Thursday evenings, and then again on Saturday afternoons. Mary says, good morning. Happy Thursday. Have started Lost Birds by Anne Hillerman and am enjoying it. Love the characters and settings of her books like her dad's. Yeah. And looks like liquid sunshine will drop from the skies at any moment. Very still, gray, and somewhat ominous. That is here too. It's actually, I think it's raining right now. It's supposed to be raining and cold today. We are in spring, so 40s is cold now. So it's going to be 40s and raining all day, which is totally wasted at work. I wish I could take the day off, but I can't. I work for my husband. There are no days off. All right. And reading wise, I finished my thriller I was reading that came out on Tuesday. That's how I discovered it, called Long Time Gone by Charlie Donlia. I gotta figure out how to pronounce that. Standalone thriller. I gave it 4 stars. Very clever concept involving DNA and a lost baby. And it was a very quick read. Needed a little bit more editing in some places, just from repetition standpoint, not from like a misspelled or anything like that. If somebody had been paying attention, within a few paragraphs, kind of the same things were said. Like it does stand out to me. So, but I liked it a lot. I would seek out more from this author. So, but the thing is, I don't know what I'm in the mood for now. I have a really good historical mystery coming out tomorrow, um, by Grace Burrows. But right now, I don't know what I'm in the mood for, and it drives me nuts when that happens. I hate it. And I look at my May TBR that these are the books I'd like to hit this month, and I want to read them, but they're not really grabbing me. So I'm in that twilight zone of what do I read. But in the meantime, we will look at the new fantasy science fiction coming out this week. Maybe inspiration will hit. There's not a whole lot here this week. So, Escape Velocity by Victor Manibo. A twisty, near-future, genre-bending thriller, Knives Out in space with a parasite twist. Well, he kind of had me interested at Knives Out, which everything is now being compared to. And space, of course. We'll see. A decades-old murder looms over the glamorous clientele of a high-end space hotel, while an unforeseen threat percolates in the service corridors. The guests are about to experience the hospitality they deserve. Space Habitat Altair is the premier luxury resort in low Earth orbit, playground of the privileged, and the perfect location to host reunions for the Rochford Institute. Rochford boasts only the best, the wealthiest, the most promising students with the most impressive pedigrees. Complete with spacewalks, these lavish reunions are a prime opportunity for alumni to jockey for power with old friends and rivals, and crucially, to advance their applications to live in an exclusive Mars settlement. Earth is dying, and only the best deserve to save themselves. Aboard the Altair for the 25th reunion, finance magnate Ava pursues the truth about her brother's murder during their senior year, which cast a dark shadow over their time at the Rochefort. Laz, ambassador and political scion, hopes to finally win Ava's heart. Sloane, collecting secrets to conceal his family's decline, angles for a key client. And Henry, heir to a healthcare empire, creates an unorthodox opportunity to get to Mars in a last-ditch effort to outrun a childhood secret. While these erstwhile friends settle scores and rack up points, they fail to notice that other agendas are afoot at the space habitat Altair, and their own futures aren't the only ones at stake. The best will soon regret underestimating those they would leave behind on Earth. I'm intrigued. I will give it that. I am intrigued. We shall see. I will investigate that further. How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying. Dark Lord Davy, #1 by Django Wexler. Groundhog meets Deadpool in this book. Funny how they use movies to describe books. And I mean funny like not so funny. Kind of like when you are hangry but you don't know what you want. Exactly. We need to come up with a word for that. Not really a book hangover. I don't know. But exactly. Because a book hangover implies that your last book, and those are that's a real condition, but it implies the book that you just finished has such a grip on you still, you can't let it go kind of thing. And I don't have that. I just don't know what's next. So we need to work on that word. Takes the old saying, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em to the next level. A sarcastic, okay, blah, blah, blah. That's just a blurb. Davy has done this all before. She's tried to be the hero and take down the all-powerful Dark Lord. 100 times she's rallied humanity and made the final charge. But the time loop always gets her in the end. Sometimes she's killed quickly. Sometimes it takes a while, but she's been defeated every time. This time, she's done being the hero and done being stuck in this endless time loop. If the Dark Lord always wins, then maybe that's who she needs to be. It's Davy's turn to play on the winning side. A humorous Western isekai featuring the reincarnation of an anti-hero female lead. But that's the definition of hero. You keep trying and trying and trying. You don't become the dark side. I get the humor of this, but still, that means you're not the hero anymore. Just saying. Lost Ark Dreaming by Sui Davies Okumbawa. Sorry about that. Once again, it's being compared to a movie. The brutally engineered class divisions of Snowpiercer meets Rivers Solomon's The Deep in this high-octane post-climate disaster novella. Well, at least they're calling it a novella. It's almost 200 pages, and they're calling it a novella. See 100-page books? You're not books. You're novellas. Ha. Off the coast of West Africa, decades after the dangerous rise of the Atlantic Ocean, the region's survivors live inside 5 partially submerged, kilometers-high towers originally created as a playground for the wealthy. Now the tower's most affluent rule from their lofty perch at the top, while the rest are crammed into the dark, fetid floors below sea level. There are also those who were left for dead in the Atlantic, only to be reawakened by an ancient power, and who seek vengeance on those who offered them up to the waves. 3 lives within the towers are pulled to the fore of this conflict. Yakini, an earnest mid-level rookie analyst, Tuoyo, an undersea mechanic mourning a tremendous loss, and Ngozi, an egotistical bureaucrat from the highest levels of governance. They will need to work together if there is to be any hope of a future that is worth living for everyone. I have opinions, but I'm not going to say them. Synthetica by Keith Anthony Baird and an editor. 158 pages, which also makes you nervous when you list an editor and cover art person. The Sino-Nippon War is over. It is 2113, and Japan is crushed under the might of Chinese allied forces. A former Coalition Corps soldier, U.S. Marine Balaam Hendricks, is now a feared bounty hunter known as the Reverend. In the sprawl of New Tokyo, on this lawless frontier, he must track down the rogue employee of a notorious crime lord. But there's a twist. His target has found protection inside a virtual reality construct, and Hendricks must go cyberside to corner his quarry. The glowing neon signs for the Synthetica are everywhere and promise escape from a dystopian reality. But will it prove the means by which this hunter snares his prey, or will it be the trap he simply can't survive? In our stars, Jack Campbell. I like Jack Campbell. Lieutenant Selena Genji has one last chance to save the Earth from destruction. Earth 2180. Genetically engineered with partly alien DNA, Lieutenant Selena Genji is different from ordinary humans. I would think so. And they hate her for it. Still, she spent her life trying to overcome society's prejudice by serving in the unified fleet, while Earth's international order collapses into war. Genji is stationed on a ship in orbit when humanity's factional extremism on the planet reaches a boiling point and she witnesses the utter annihilation of Earth. When the massive forces unleashed by Earth's death warp space and time to hurl her 40 years into the past, Genji is given a chance to try to change the future and save Earth, starting with the alien first contact only she knows will soon occur. Earth 2140. Lieutenant Cale Owen's ship is on a routine patrol when a piece of spacecraft wreckage appears out of nowhere. To his shock, there is a survivor on board, Selena Genji. Once her strange heritage is discovered, though, it becomes clear that Genji is a problem Earth Guard Command wants to dispose of, quietly. After learning the horrifying truth, Owen helps her escape and joins her mission. Together they have a chance to change the fate of an Earth doomed to die in 2180. But altering history could put Genji's very existence in danger, and Owen wonders if a world without her is one worth saving. The cover is very old school, which is interesting. I don't know. I like the author. But there are certain, we'll call them tropes because they're done over and over again, they're tropes, that are just pissing me off. A House Like an Accordion by Audrey Burgess. Kareth Miller is disappearing. Between the growing distance from her husband, the demands of two teenage daughters, and an all-encompassing burnout, she sometimes feels herself fading away. Actual translucence, though, that's new. When Kareth wakes up one morning with her hand completely gone, she is frantic, as one would be. But she quickly realizes two things. If she is disappearing, it's because her father, an artist with the otherworldly ability to literally capture life in his art, is drawing her. Oh, that's creepy. And if he's drawing her, that means he's still alive. But where has he been for the past 25 years? And why is he doing the one thing he always warned her not to? Never draw from life, Kareth. Every line exacts a cost. As Kareth continues to slowly fade away, she retraces what she believes to be her father's last steps through the many homes of her past, determined to find him before it's too late and she disappears entirely. I have thoughts. A, it's creepy. B, it could be used to eliminate bad people, which is not a power you should have, but you would be tempted to use for good, but it would get twisted. And C, like if you do a house, would it disappear? So D, would you just, if you had to draw, would you just create fantastical worlds that don't really exist? I have questions and thoughts. But back to letter A, it's creepy. Goddess of the River by Vaishnavi Patel. I apologize. I do my best with the names. A powerful reimagining of the story of Ganga, goddess of the river, and her doomed mortal son. A mother and a son, a goddess and a prince, a curse and an oath, a river whose course will change the fate of the world. Ganga, I don't think it's Ganja, I think it's Ganga. Joyful goddess of the river, serves as caretaker to the mischievous godlings who roam her banks. But when their antics incur the wrath of a powerful sage, Ganga is cursed to become mortal, bound to her human form until she fulfills the obligations of the curse. Though she knows nothing of mortal life, Ganga weds King Shantanu and becomes a queen, determined to regain her freedom no matter the cost. But in a cruel turn of fate, just as she is freed of her binding, she is forced to leave her infant son behind. Her son, Prince Devavrata, unwittingly carries the legacy of Ganga's curse, and when he makes an oath that he will never claim his father's throne, he sets in motion a chain of events that will end in a terrible and tragic war. As the years unfold, Ganga and Devavrata are drawn together again and again, each confluence another step on a path that has been written in the stars in this deeply moving and masterful tale of duty, destiny, and the unwavering bond between mother and son. Heavenbreaker by Sarah Wolf. Bravery isn't what you do, it's what you endure. The Duke of the powerful House Haute-Claire is the first to die, with my dagger in his back. He didn't see it coming, didn't anticipate the bastard daughter who was supposed to die with her mother on his order. He should have left us with the rest of the station's starving commoner rubbish. But there's nothing left, just icy white rage and a need to make House Haute-Claire pay. Every damn one of them. Even if it means riding Heavenbreaker, one of the few enormous machines left over from the war, and jousting against the fiercest nobles in the system. Each win means another one of my enemies dies, and here in the cold terror of space, the machine and I move as one, intent on destroying each adversary, even if it's someone I care about, even if it's someone I'm falling for. And until they said space, I was imagining more fantasy setting, They should have said right away. I don't know. Set the scene. The Wrath of the Broken, Book 4, Changelings, the Cursed series by Acacia Warmerdam. In the riveting finale of the Cursed series, Death Prince Drake finds himself tangled in the threads of fate with the courageous and fiery Freya, born to a life of servitude under the oppression of her family's notorious matrital games in the land of Pandronia. Freya vows to obliterate the monstrous system that sold countless women into slavery after surviving the horrific trials of the games that claim countless women every 5 years. United with the princes of Lutherdral, they work to dismantle the corruption from within, risking it all in a perilous tangle of deception and betrayal. Amidst the tumultuous quest for freedom, the beloved bond between gruff Eli and the sweet Princess Louise is fiercely tested as kidnapped event threatens to pull them apart. Kidnapping event, sorry about that. Torn from Eli on the very day of their wedding, her abduction sparks a desperate race against time to reclaim love and the freedom they so desperately seek. In a world consumed by war and the thirst for power, will love conquer all, and at what cost? And that is all I have for this week. We have a couple, we've got a minute or two here. I might check out further the first one, but nothing is really grabbing me of those. But I have thoughts of, the fantasy and science fiction genre in general. I miss the epic fantasies of going on a quest, on an epic quest with companions to save the kingdom, the world, etc. And I've mentioned this before, but is it a reflection of the authors, or is it a reflection of the publishers who allow these books to get, they're the gatekeeper who get these books published? Is it their worldview that is determining what gets published out there? Because I mentioned before that so much of the fantasy is the the focus has become the internal journey. I'm not saying the hero's journey isn't relevant, it is absolutely relevant. His or her story arc is what propels the story and why we care. But they've taken that and made that the entire focus of the story, and they hang the events on that framework rather than the other way around. It's that concept of navel gazing to the superpower, but we're supposed to care about somebody's. It's becoming too angsty, maybe in my, and definitely more romantasy taking over, but also looking at these and seeing the trends of science fiction in particular is a very interesting subgenre in the speculation aspect of it, and a reflection of a culture in that regard. So you look back at science fiction in the, say, the 50s and 60s, the classics, Isaac Asimov and Clark and all those. The speculation was more scientific, getting to space, and again more scientific, whereas the trend now is that our current culture is bad. You see what, I don't know if I'm, there was excitement and growth, and that we can do anything kind of speculation, whereas now it's all destructive. It's institutions are bad, the world's going to end. And as somebody who is an older reader, I grew up in the 80s. The 80s were my formative years. In 1980, I started seventh grade and I graduated college in 89. So, the very formative years are that decade. And I can tell you they tried to scare us with nuclear winter and acid rain, and the world's going to end in 10 years. And it didn't. And we can tell you it won't. But these new younger generations are absolutely buying into it, because I think the message people have figured out, those in, we'll say those in power have figured out how to control masses and make money off of that fear, which then is reflected in the writing. And they don't have the perspective of being older to be able to say, I don't believe you. And as an analogy, I would say, imagine if those who say the world was flat, the flat earthers, took control of the publishing, and that's all that the science fiction books were reflecting, a belief that that is true. And you understand the frustration of reading, looking for entertaining reading, and that's all you get is that kind of, let's say, activism that, yes, the world is flat, and that's all you're going to be reading about. So, as a reader, I'm frustrated that that kind of agenda has taken over my reading pleasure. So I read these new releases and I'm wondering, should I just go back and read the good stuff, shall we say? And I'm not saying they're all like that, definitely not. And I always find good things to read, but it's just trends that I'm noticing, and I wish they'd just snap out of it. Just read. Just write good books. Mary says, I think many of them are stumped as to what to write. We are living in times that used to be written into sci fi, so they need more imagination, move on to the next level, whatever that is. That's a good point. And being published has gotten that blockbuster mentality that has killed movies. It has to make money, which is not a bad thing, but in order to do that, they're boxing themselves into creating sequels and sequels and sequels. And you look at the books, and they're all just, a lot of them are just the same storylines by a different author, but this is what worked in the past. So now we need all the books to be like Fourth Wing. It has to have, or they're all like Hunger Games. There's a good example. Every book now has to have like this competition of young people. You know what? Come up with interesting ideas, and those are the movies, to segue to movies that break that mold, that often stand out and people will flock to because they are looking for new things and not just regurgitating the stuff that quote unquote they know works, end quote. But it's also affecting books, and in particular fantasy and sci-fi. I'm noticing you could say that's the same thing with romance books. You always get boy and girl meet and have obstacles and fall in love and overcome them at the end, which is why sometimes you make fun of them because it is the same story over and over again. But there are those who are talented enough to break past that, and those are the ones that the authors, I think, survive because they can take some of those same tropes but do it in their way, which is more interesting. And I'm rambling, but anyway, that's me stepping off my soapbox. So if you're still here, and I got to get to work here, so thank you so much. Tomorrow we will be looking at, it's Freeform Friday, so we'll be looking at some of the stuff that we have not had a chance to look at that sound interesting, but then we'll also be looking at more cozy mysteries. Tonight we do have sprints at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern, and they'll go for 2.5 hours. In the meantime, I hope you have a very good Thursday. Hope you read good books. And as the banner says here, don't be a bookworm, be a bookie monster. Om nom nom. Have a good day and God bless.